Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Art of Tracking radio show. Tracking is still alive and well. Join us as we interview master trackers from around the world. We'll hear their stories, their secrets. So tune in and enjoy all you hear. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. Tonight's show is Crime Scene Tracker, and we're happy to have Fernando Moreira with us, with Professional Trackers, to talk about crime scene tracking. Fernando, are you with us?
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good. How are you doing? It's good to have you on the show again.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
So, crime scene tracking. In the early 1900s, Australian police used Aboriginals to help them solve crimes and find missing people and stuff like that. And tracking is still alive. You're one of the people in the United States that uses tracking and helps solve crimes or assist with police and stuff like that. So we want to hear some of your stories or how you did it and what it takes.
Yes, crime scene tracking, it's a really good skill to know. A tracker has to be an outstanding tracking to be able to work into a crime scene, because by reading the footprints, we'll be able to figure out everything about the person, if it was a shooting, if it was a stabbing, if it was a robbery or anything like that. And by reading those shoe prints, we'll be able to figure everything out. One of the most important things is you have to learn the basics first in tracking and start training to become a good tracker. Then from there we can build you up to a crime scene tracker. That's the most important thing.
So
the basics.
So the basics, how does one go about learning the basics?
Well, pretty much they can go out, learn the basics, and because a lot of dirt time. They have to spend a lot of time on the dirt and have to be able to work in all different types of terrains and conditions, because, you never know where the crime going to take place. It could be on a city, in a urban environment, could be on backcountry, could be in some sort of suburban areas. And sometimes you're not always going to find some design of the shoe. That's what we call micro-tracking. Sometimes you have to go step by step. And that's why we keep telling everybody to learn the basics, go out on the field, use those basics 4, 5, 6 times a week, spend a lot of time on the ground, and become a really good tracker. Then from there, go inside the department, could be like in law enforcement, city, county, and offer you a services, and maybe they can start using you. But to work in a crime scene, you have to prove to them that you know what to do, because if you just jump around the middle of a crime scene and destroying stuff for the forensic, they will never going to use you again. So, That's a skill that the forensic and the trackers have to be able to work together.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And, what are some reasons police and detectives would want to use trackers or tracking? Why would they come to a tracker? Do they know about tracking?
Exactly. Inside the crime scene, there's a lot of stuff going on. Everybody knows. Could be like fingerprints, could be DNA, could be blood. You know what I mean? Also could be the shoe prints down there. And there's a lot of stuff going on in there. And these forensics go in, they take photos from all different directions. They're trying to figure out what happened. And then if we have a tracker on there, we says, hey, look, I got some tracks here. They come in, they take the photos. Then you have to go step by step and be able to read those set of footprints, be able to see if the person actually turned around and looked backwards, for example, see if somebody coming. Or maybe they throw something away, like a pivot point. And that's what we talk about. You have to do the step-by-step, because the step-by-step will help you a lot inside the crime scene. So, for example, if it was a crime scene in the city right now, law enforcement shows up, blocks that area with the crime scene tape to keep everybody off that area so that way the forensic be able to do their job. Well, we always looking for a big, huge area, the biggest as possible, so that way they be able to work inside. Does not mean they cannot shrink the area, but they have to secure the area as big as possible. A tracker, they can actually still go outside the crime scene area and start doing the 360-degree circle all the way around to see if you're already picking up something leaving out of there or actually going into the crime scene. And if we do, that's great. If not, it's just we got to start from the middle of the crime scene and start doing a spiral out from that point forward, see if we're actually picking up something leaving out of there, because there's always going to be some sign there. If every human being will leave behind 2,500 to 3,000 footprints in 1 mile, that's a lot.
Wow.
Now, inside the crime scene, inside the crime scene, whatever crime they occurred, they probably start walking around, walking in circles, you know what I mean? Sometimes even going to be much more than that. We're talking about just about the other evidence that are going to be also left behind by the person they're looking for or whatever, you know what I mean? So there's going to be a lot of clues, a lot of evidence out there.
Yeah, and when you were talking about being able to find something that somebody threw, I thought about when I took your class and you had us close our eyes, and then one person left tracks, picked up a rock, and threw it while nobody was looking, and the class had to turn around and figure out what happened, and it was really fun. It was a great learning experience, and the class was actually able to find the rock, figure out that he threw something, and find the rock that he threw. So that was quite eye-opening to see that.
It was great, though. I'm glad that you folks was able to find that rock and then match that rock from the socket from where the rock actually came from, which you guys was able to do. Yeah, which you guys was able to do that. And to become a crime scene tracker, to become a crime scene tracker, pretty much there's several levels that they got to go through. You know what I mean? They got to go through the tracker where they can go to tracker level 1, for example. Then they got to go to the advanced tracking course. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of classes in between they have to take before they can reach that level. Because if a track-aware person just goes in there and just because he knows the basics, you know, he's going to miss a lot of clues. Even in the export tracker, we're probably going to miss a lot of clues around. That's why when I work inside these crime scenes, I always like to have a second tracker with me to verify everything what I do. In case I actually miss something, maybe a second fresh pair of eyes that can help me out to pick up something else that I actually miss inside the crime scene.
Yes. I'm curious, Fernando, how did you get into helping police and things with crime scene tracking?
Pretty much was, when I joined the search and rescue on 1990, from there, then they used me inside one of the crime scenes, and I did an outstanding job for them. Then they says, wow, no, we're going to use you again. So they used me again because they know I did a good job on the first time. And then they start using me again often and more and more and more. Then the other counties or cities around my area, they also, cool, let's go bring this guy in. So I go in, I help them out. You have to be some, professional to work with these guys. And you cannot work like head-to-head against them. You got to work with them. And you got to know what's going on because they will ask you a lot of information. And if we don't know how to answer the question, might as well tell them, hey, look, we don't know how to do it. We can never assume anything. You always can do is what you see, what you saw, what you did, and that's it.
Yeah, so you have to build a relationship with the local law enforcement after getting all your tracking and dirt time down in classes, and
Definitely. Then I take a class on the forensic too before, just to help me out to figure out exactly what they're doing inside the crime scene besides tracking. And I know the basics, what they're doing out there. My job is just a tracker. And the track is, it can be hard, be easy, depends on kind of the terrain that you're going to be working on. especially when there is on the city, because you already know going to be so much foot traffic around the area from the private citizens who want to see what's going on, or maybe before even the crime take place, you know what I mean? Some people already walk through the area, so there's going to be a lot of shoe prints over there. And that's when it comes to the aging of the prints. We have to know about the aging of the prints too also. So if the crime takes place, for example, 4 hours ago, we should be able to know the difference between the new tracks, old tracks, and 4 hours tracks. And that's, the aging. And the aging is the most important thing. To tell them, okay, I believe these tracks belongs to the person, not just because you get in over here wherever the crime takes place. Also, it's probably 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours old. You know what I mean? You have to know everything. Yeah. And then when you look at the shoe print on the ground, you have to take several measurements of the print. You have to be able to only draw what you see, the print, you know what I mean, on a piece of paper, so that way at least you can have some sort of reference to look for, and maybe they can actually use your notes, you know what I mean, to take with them if, you know, when it's time to testify in court or something, you know, that kind of good stuff. So all the information have to be everything on the paper. We can never assume anything.
Do you have to handle tracks differently at a crime scene that you come across?
Definitely. You pretty much, you know, if you're looking for a missing person, if I miss like 3 or 4 tracks, you know what I mean, that's fine. You know what I mean? I can still see a couple footprints ahead, and I can continue my mission. But for the crime scene, it's very important to find every single set of footprints. Could be every left, every right, every single one of them. Be able to read the toes if it was pitched in or pitched out. And all the kind of information is going to be over there to your disposal. And it's up to the tracker to be able to find all that to help them out through the case. So it's a lot of information there to do with tracking.
And do you get vehicle tracks much?
Oh, definitely. If it's a vehicle, it could be a vehicle, could be a bicycle or motorcycle. And, you know what I mean, all that kind of stuff is still going to be there. And from looking at the vehicle tracks, there's different measurements that we have to do to figure out the kind of vehicle if it was. If it was a pickup truck, for example, if it was a small little car, or if it was a 2-door, if it was 4-door, how many people actually was in there. Yeah, tire tracks is very, very important too also in the crime scene investigations. It's very important for everyone. And the tracker should know the basics, you know what I mean, how to read the vehicle tire tracks to be able to help them out and be able to tell which way the vehicle walk in, if you turn around, if you back out, you know what I mean, pull forward. And by doing several measurements, and they be able to, you know what I mean, to say what kind of vehicle it was. You know what I mean, I can have said the make and the model, but I can say it was a 2-door car or a 4-door car or maybe a pickup truck, something like that.
Yeah, what are some of the measurements you would get if you had clear tire tracks on a...
Yeah, you can measure the wheelbase, for example, from the ground, from the front tire to the back tire. So it gives you a general idea what's going on in there. And also, you have to be able to tell the direction of travel from looking at the tire tracks. Even just because you look at the tire tracks, which way the you know what I mean? If the person, the vehicle is actually backing out, or if it's going to go forward and it does a U-turn, you have to be able to read those tire tracks too. Also, it's hard to explain, but you know what I mean. In a field, when you actually see it, you know what we're talking about. You got to go out on the, you know what I mean, on the ground and be able to read those tire tracks. Then you understand what we're talking about.
I've tried to look at tire tracks a little bit myself, and you'd think it would be easy, but sometimes it's kind of hard. I mean, if you get tread that is doesn't have a direction on a non-directional tread, you got to look for other clues.
Definitely, and it's very important too. Also, you got to go down and you got to measure the step, for example, of the person. Then you be able to figure out, if the person, when you walk in, if it was a slow walk, then you start moving fast and you run, what happened in there? So from looking at those, actually, the footprints, you'll be able to know and tell all that by looking at it and by certain measurements that we actually do. And, you know, and a lot of things you have to carry with you when you work inside the crime scene. The most important thing is that everything have to be tight to your body, whatever you need, because you can, like every couple of seconds, walk outside, pick up a tool, and bring it back in. You want to have everything with you, and you got to make sure you will not drop anything inside the crime scene. That belongs to you. If you drop something by accident, please let them know, hey, I dropped this. This is mine. I pick it up. But that's the most important thing, because you don't want to add extra stuff in there, you know what I mean, they can jeopardize the case pretty much.
Yeah, and have you had search and rescues that have started out as search and rescues and turned into crime scenes? And those probably need to be handled a special way, I'd imagine.
Yes. You know, if it goes to a search and rescue mission and it turns out into a crime scene, you got to secure the perimeter as big as possible, and do not let anyone get inside there. Just secure the perimeter, and then you can call one of the police officers to come in. When the police officer arrives, they can take over the crime scene. We protect everything for them. Now he is in charge until the forensic people, whatever they need over there, to be able to put the puzzle together. If they ask us for our assistance, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to help them out. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And if they don't, that's okay. You know what I mean? Is maybe they have everything that they need right inside that, you know what I mean, that portion that we actually secure for them. And so, and that's one of those things, is a lot of paperwork have to be done, you know, and preserve everything to help them out as much as we can. So if I would, for example, if it was a crime scene there right now, and I would turn around and say, oh, I'm going to go in and help them out, I cannot do that, because now you're offering the surfers to help them out without their permission. If they need us, they should call for us. But when I'm going to go there and offer it, I'm a suspect case, otherwise it's advised. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're going to say, why you want to help me out? And so that's
so you have to build these relationships ahead of time.
Yes.
You don't just show up. You gotta build the relationship ahead of time, get your dirt time in, get your certifications in, and all that.
Sure. Yes, and also another thing is, for example, a combat tracker, for example, or a tactical tracker. You know what I mean? Those people are trained to hunt for the bad people out there. You know what I mean? Those guys, they're outstanding trackers. Don't take me wrong, they are. But they do like more not step by step, because they don't have no time to do step by step, and they just gotta close the puzzle. They gotta move quick and fast. But now when it comes into a crime scene, it's a completely different story. We have to find every single print to be able to figure out exactly what happened in there. And there's two different skills in there. And if you've never done it before, how can you go over there and do the job?
Yeah, you know, one of the things I'm thinking that a tracker could bring to this is, by reading the tracks they see, they would be able to clue in the other forensic people as to other places they might look. For example, like you read the tracks and you saw somebody throw something, you could pass that on to forensic that maybe you should look over there.
Exactly, and that's one of those things. Every track will tell you a story about the person we're looking for, whatever circumstances it is. By looking at the track, you'll be able to figure out if the person's already thinking and slowing down a little bit, if the person's already thinking and running, for example, you know. So every track will tell you if the person turning left, turning right, if he's going straight or he's backing up, all that kind of good stuff. So it takes a lot of ground time to be able to train your eyes to be able to read each track and figure out all the pressure releases to be able to work in a crime scene.
Yeah, I've heard
to be able to do a good job. And so that's where the pressure releases comes all about. I know people have thousands and thousands of names for the pressure releases. It's too much. And we don't need to know all those thousands of names is out there. The only thing you need to know is just the basic names, but make sure you know how to read those tracks and know what they mean. You know what I mean? And so that's the most important thing. That's why if somebody, for example, only trains once a month or just teaching classes all full time and never have a chance to work on it and do this kind of stuff, and they're going to go over there, how much they can benefit us. They've never done it before, and that's one of those things. I teach a lot. You know what I mean, a lot of classes, and I also do a lot of missions, not have to be crime scenes, but other type of missions too also. And every time I go out, I always learn something from somebody, and I always pick up some new technique that later on in the future was going to benefit me too. So, and that's one of those things, a lot of dirt time. I spend last year on my books that I have, I spent 2,900 hours last year just in training. 2,900 hours in 1 year.
That's impressive.
Yes, and you know what I mean? And I keep everything on the book logged, so that way I know how many hours I train a year. You know what I mean? In case something happens, I can say, look, I have 3,000 hours last year. I have 2,000 hours the year before. And you know what I mean? So at least I keep my logbook, my records, and find out how many hours I train and everything, because you never know if they ever ask you for your training logbook for you to show the hours, whatever you train and all the classes that you take, you have to show up some proof. And so those are the things. I have books. So go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, do you have to go to court for when you do a crime scene tracking?
Yes, you know what I mean? It's not every time, but yes, we're going to go into court. We actually testified in court. The only thing I can testify is what I did, what I saw, you know what I mean, and what they mean. Mm-hmm. That's it. I can never assume anything. I only can testify is what was there, exactly the way I did it, and that's the way it goes. Then it's up to the forensic and the detectives to be able to prove to whatever we found, it belongs to a specific individual.
Yeah.
I cannot say that, but it's up to them. So that's what we talk about in the crime scene. Is a lot more than going on than just in tracking. But tracking is just a small little partial what's going on inside. But with tracking, you'd be able to help them out a lot too also.
So the tracking at crime scenes is about finding every piece of evidence, and it's about getting an idea of telling the story of what happened there?
Yes, that's what it is. You have to find every track, tell the story, exactly what happened, what you saw, what you did, what is out there, and then with all your paperwork and all the paperwork, they put those things together, and then they figured out, exactly what happened in there. It's always going to be more than that. There's going to be some more other clues, other stuff going on, and they will collect everything. We're not evidence collectors. They're the ones to have the training and everything to be able to do that. And when I'm tracking, if I find some sort of evidence like that, I let them know I found something. I stay there until they come in and they collect it, because they're the ones who have the training to do all that kind of good stuff. I know how to do it, but I'm not going to do it without their permission. They're the ones who have all the training to do that. So, and that's one of those things. If we cannot destroy anything, if we make the job hard for them, then they will never going to use this again. So that's really, like you said, we got to build a relationship inside the department so that way they be able to use the tracking, especially in the crime scene.
So as far as training more into this, individuals can do their own dirt time where they live, but that you also have classes, is that right, that could help?
Yes, I do have classes that they actually teach them to teach them. But if they show up and they says, oh, yeah, I take a class from this person, and now I want to take the crime scene, well, say, wait a minute, I cannot let them do that. You know what I mean? I have to rebuild them to reach that goal, but I cannot just let them go through one of the classes if they even don't know how to do the basics.
Right,
and
it's something you have to build up to.
You have to build them up, and and some people is like, oh, I just take a class. Why I have to go take the same class again? It says, well, sometimes it takes you 5 or 6 times to take the same class to be able to pick up something that you miss. So more you do, more classes that you take going to be better for you, because we always miss something. Every time I take a class, I always learn something. And that's one of those things. And the paperwork have to be up, you know what I mean? If they already have one that the certifications expire, does not mean you're going to come back and says, oh, I want to go take this class now. It says, okay, but your certificate is already expired. I say, well, so why we need to have these type of certificates to be able to do this? Well, it's the same thing like CPR, standing first aid. All of them have expiration date. And so if it expires, even at a EMT level, does not mean I can go over there and still use my skills as an EMT if I don't have a certificate to prove to them that I know what to do.
Yeah.
So that's what certificates comes in place, and it's very important for everybody to know that we still continue our education. So,
Fernando, we're down to just a couple minutes. Is there anything else you would like to share?
Yes, pretty much what I would like to tell them is just go out on the field, spend a lot of time on the ground, and every time you have an opportunity, just please take a tracking class and go over there and spend a lot of time on the ground and train, but try to do a lot of step-by-step tracking if you like to become a crime scene investigator later on in the future. There's a lot of good things out there. Just go out and do it. If you go out 3 or 4 times a week, you'll become a really good tracker out there. It's just time-consuming, but you can do it. You just got to do a lot of ground time.
Well, Fernando, thank you very much for coming on the show and talking with us and explaining some of this stuff to us. And everybody, I would highly recommend that you look at Professional Tracker's website and check out some of Fernando's classes and get out there and do some dirt time. And thanks again, Fernando.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. It was a pleasure talking to you.
All right, we'll talk to you later.